Hi, back with some more guitar related fun. So today I'm going to talk about a really cool turnaround that you can use in big band, swing, doo-wop, blues actually as well. It's based around the idea of a 1-6-2-5, but it isn't one. What I'll do is I'll play it, show you how it works, and then if you want to hang around I'll explain kind of why it works, because it's useful to know that, I find, because then I can apply it in different places. So in G it sounds like this. It's very simple. It's only 3 chords. In rhythm, with rhythm, you play it. So you can play it more than once, just depends on the song. So what you've got is 3 or 4 notes, depending on how you do it, or what the sound you want. It's similar to some of the turnarounds in my last video, in that you've got a major, a diminished, and a sixth, you could think of it as. Effectively, you've got the top 3 strings of a G chord. So this is just 4th fret on the B string, then, sorry, the G string, beg your pardon, then the 3rd fret of the B string, 3rd fret of the E string, just a major triad. And then the next one, I find it easiest to finger this as a diminished and then don't play the bottom note. So it's actually that D7 shape, but so your top finger stays on that 3rd fret of the E string, then you've got 2nd fret B string, 3rd fret G string, and then if you want to play it, you've got the 2nd fret on the D string. So 2, 3, 2, 3. So we've got, and then the next one is, I guess you could think of it like a D minor shape, if you're used to that. So you've got, again, the G on top, then you've got a C, which is the 1st fret on the B string, and then you've got an A, which is the 2nd fret on the G string. So you've got A, C, G. And you could think of that as all kinds of chords. It sort of doesn't matter what you think of it as, it just works. And then you come back to that same diminished. It's very similar to the one, as I say, to the one that we did last time, which is very similar sort of concept. You just got to keep playing it to get your fingers around it. So you can use that at the end of a 1-6-2-5 chord sequence. So you've got, if you've got your, and if you need a 5, you can play the D as a turnaround. The nice thing about it is you've got some both voice leading and pedal tones all at the same time. So the G stays all the way through. So if I just play the top E string, you've just got that G. I think that's called a pedal tone. Somebody correct me in the comments if I've got it wrong. You've also then got voice leading, because what the next 2 fingers down are doing are, in fact, you can just play that if you really want to save your fingers. In fact, if you're in G, you can use that open top E string as a 6th, which is kind of nice and western swingy if you want that. Instead of, so you've got some choices there. So you've got 2 things going on. You've got this thing moving, and then you've got both at the same time. If you want to play more notes, and you want something at the bottom of the chord, you can play on the D string as well. So, and then if you want, sorry, so you've got the open D there as well. So the voice on the D string goes, Sorry. So it's all in there. You can use as much of it as you want. You can use the middle bit, or you can use the bottom part, or you can use the top part, or the whole thing. Where I got this from, by the way, this is not an original thought, is actually the song She's the Most by the Five Keys, which is in C and has this. So you've got that, and then that on the top of it with a slide. So it's and they use it throughout the song. The intro is like double time, and then the song uses that, but each chord is twice the length. If you're interested in more about how to play She's the Most particularly, I'm happy to do a video on that. In fact, any particular song, if you're interested in knowing what the rhythm part is, put a comment down below, and I'll happily do that. By the way, I don't intend to do any videos on repeating or copying people's solos. I personally, I don't think I've ever learned anything from that except how to copy a solo. I think the hard part for me of getting retro or vintage music right is actually the rhythm part. That's where it all falls to pieces. Most people can copy solos if you have the dexterity, but getting the rhythm part right when it's really hard to hear sometimes takes a little bit more effort. Okay, so that's that turnaround. Okay, so why does it work? Well, brace yourselves. Obviously we've got the root, which is the G. That's fine. So then we've got this chord. So that's a diminished chord, which means it's both, it's a G diminished, it's a B flat diminished, it's a D flat diminished, and it's an E diminished. So think about it as an E diminished. If we're doing a 1-6-2-5, if you go back to one of the previous videos, we've got 1, 6. So that's our E7. One of the cool things is that you can generally substitute a diminished for a dominant seventh. They have a lot of the same notes in. They both serve a similar purpose, which is that they sound unresolved, so they want to go somewhere. So you can replace that E7 with, in this case, with the B in the bass. So what happens when you replace that with an E diminished is that the B would be a B flat, because that's the diminished run for a G or E diminished. So, and we remember from the previous video that that shape serves a number of purposes. One of them is it's a B flat diminished. Well, if the E7 is there and the B flat diminished is a fret down, how does that work? Well, it works like this. If you've got this E7, and if you go back to the previous video where I talked a little bit about tritone substitutions, this B flat 7 is a substitute for E7, and the reason it's a substitute is because it's basically an E7 flat 5. Well, and if we accept that we can substitute a diminished seventh for a dominant seventh, if I substitute for this B flat 7, which it now is, and I can substitute the B flat diminished, and that's that chord. So effectively what we're doing is we're substituting twice. We're substituting an E7 for a B flat 7, and then we're substituting the B flat 7 for a B flat diminished. And that's how we get G diminished or B flat diminished, same thing. And then what's this third chord? Well, I'd be interested to know what you think. I've kind of never tried to figure out what it is, but it's kind of an A minor with a G on the top. So you could think of it as an A minor over G, which is probably the easiest way to think about it. And you can, and obviously a D is the fourth of A, so that's kind of unhelpful, but it doesn't really matter at this point. So that to me substitutes for that A minor 7. So you've got this A minor with the G on the top, which is like this A minor, and then what would happen if there was a G there? Well, that's an A minor 7. That's the bar A minor 7 that you're probably familiar with. So let's move it back up here and try it again. So now we've got G, B flat diminished, A minor 7, and then we're going back to the B flat diminished and then back to the G. So G, B flat diminished or G diminished, A minor 7 with a G on the top to keep the note going, and then back again. So if we were to play it down here, we've got, sorry. Now remember one of the other things we got from the previous video is that this chord is a few different things. One of the things it is a G with a B in the bass. So we could play, which is this, but down here. And it all links back to these chord shapes that I did in my very first video on the channel, which is the G, D7, D minor 7 or G in the bass, A minor 7, D7. So let me just quickly go through how to play that in case you want to play it lower down. G with a B in the bass, that's 7th fret on the E, muted A string, 5th fret on the D string and 7th fret on the G string. Then take these two fingers and move them down 1 fret. A minor 7 is 5th, mute 5th fret, and then back again. It's less finger scrunching, but it is, and you can't do that 6th on top of it. So there you go, nice little turnaround. It's more interesting than doing that all night. It's great for Western swing. By the way, if you want to get back to the G, you can do the D7, or you can substitute it again for the A flat 7. So again, we can do. Listen to the bass note. And there's so little left hand movement that even somebody like me who's struggles sometimes with my hands can play that one, even when this one can be a bit of a chore. If you're playing higher up the neck, so it's nice from G to B flat. C, it's working. When you start to get to E flat, you sometimes have to come up with some different strategies. It is playable, depends on the guitar. Sometimes instead of that major chord, you might want that 7th chord or 9th chord. It's up to you. It depends on the song. If you want some tips on how to play things like D flats and E flats, typically you end up playing that where you've got horn players or singers who needs to hit a certain range, then let me know in the comments. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this. Cool turnaround. Sometimes I even play it right. Thanks.